days into it now. I know there's a lot of excitement when spring ball first starts, but what are you and the coaching staff looking for the most out of the guys this early in spring practice?
Yeah, obviously looking for some carryover from some of the stuff we did in the fourth quarter program, meetings, walkthrough wise, looking for guys to improve each day, looking for guys to be able to come out and make some of the corrections that we talked about the day before. I thought we did a good job today going from 1 to 2. We made a huge jump from 1 to 2. 2 was full of excitement. 1, was full of excitement and running around. 2 was a really good job of coming back and correcting some of the things we talked about. Now we got to keep building on top of that.
When you look, especially in the new age of college football, there's always new guys coming in with that December signing period and then getting into the spring. So it's almost like the jitters of a fall camp in the spring. How do you manage those and get guys to sort of slow down and not be so wide-eyed this early?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it keeps us as coaches fresh. It keeps the systems and the process and the way you do things fresh. Sometimes you get into a situation where you have an older team and you kind of say, well, they know this. It makes you go back and coach the fundamentals. It really gives you a chance to see some of these guys didn't have other opportunities, to play or whatever it was, because the way you coach them, the way you instruct them, the way you motivate them it makes them, better. Makes them happy, makes them want to come back. And then obviously you get to see the improvement, right? You've seen guys run around in, shorts and t-shirts, but now you get a chance to see them play football. And you can kind of start to see, okay, hey, this is a younger guy, even though he may have came from an older school, being a older guy, he didn't have a lot of reps, so his experience level makes him younger. Here's where he does some good things, here's where he does some bad.
How much do you see some of the guys that are returning from last year, the leadership skills start to take over for those guys? Obviously, a big group of seniors left last year. Some of those leadership places, not necessarily, vocally, but just by example, some of those guys.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of the guys that came back before we kind of got started in the winter, and I told them, I don't want you to carry the mantle of leadership because sometimes that word is scary to this generation. What I told them is I want you to have leadership responsibilities, right? I want you to show and do what you're supposed to do. That way I can point out to other guys, hey, that's what it looks like. What that'll do is that'll build the confidence in those guys that, hey, I don't have to always say something or I don't have to be responsible for saying something. I can just be myself. Typically what you get from that is guys become more comfortable, then they do start to become more vocal. But as soon as you say, hey, you're a leader because you're a junior, you're a senior, or you've been here last year, it's like, I don't want to be a leader. I want to play myself. That's fine. You don't have to be a leader. Have leadership responsibilities. Be where you're supposed to be. Do what you're supposed to do so I can use you as the example.
And just like we get stuck talking about players so much, but for you all getting to know each other as a staff, these are the first couple on-field days for a lot of the offensive guys to be together. What have you seen on that side with the coaches and their chemistry?
Yeah, it's different because there's not a lot of guys that's been here to kind of know how we do things or know why we've gotten to this point in our organization, of practice or meetings. So I have to go back and be very, basic day one fundamental teaching. It helps me because sometimes as a coach you think, well, the coaches know, where we want this drill, or the coaches know where we want this, particular, line. But what it does, it makes me go back and look over holistically. And you're able to see some things that needed to be changed that maybe just changed on the fly or didn't change. So we've really done a good job, in my opinion, the first couple of days as a staff of being very basic and fundamental and detailed. I talked to the guys about taking extreme ownership over your role, whatever it is, whether you're the OC or whether you fill up water bottles. Take extreme ownership over it and make sure that everything that has to do with your role is running smoothly. Today, come back and do the same thing tomorrow.
You mentioned the fourth quarter program earlier too. How integral is that to what you all are doing and getting guys ready for spring? And obviously that's an area where you do have some consistency because you and BA have been together this whole time.
Yeah, what you're able to do is some of the guys who have been through the fourth quarter program and attacked it the right way, they come out with a little bit more conditioning in the beginning of spring ball. The guys who struggled to get through it and were kind of like, man, what are we doing? And finally by week 2 or 3, they caught on. Now they see why we were doing so much, why we were pushing them so hard. Because when they get out here from a conditioning standpoint with the practice reps and the practice model, they're not as tired as they may be. So now it starts to validate a little bit more of why we do what we do in the fourth quarter, why we do what we do as far as walkthroughs and meetings, why we do what we do in the weight room. So hopefully we get to day 3 on Saturday and get to put on the pads. And we can kind of start to separate a little bit. The first couple of days in spiders and helmets is a little bit of a, I would have, but we'll get to put on the shoulder pads and thigh boards coming up on Saturday and see what we can do.
Yeah, and before you get to that day 3 on Saturday, an important day for Marshall football as a program as well, with Pro Day happening tomorrow. I saw some of the guys filtered down on the sidelines. How important is that for you? Some of those guys coming back and seeing your practices and kind of mingling around with the new guys to sort of set that tone for, hey, I'm going to be trying out for pro prospects. This could be you in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been really good. A lot of the guys that have come back, even from the Senior Bowl and the Combine, they run up to my office and like, Coach, everything you prepared us for, like, it showed up. Like, there were guys there that were so nervous because they didn't know what to do in this drill or this interview, and some of the things that you talked about with us helped us go in there and feel confident. That's the gratification you want, right? You want to give all these guys an opportunity to chase their dreams at the highest level, whether that's academically or athletically. When they come back and they kind of say, like, Dad, you were right. Like a kid coming back home, Dad, you were right, or Coach, you were right. It just gives you the gratification of, yes, I know, that's why I was on your tail so much. That's why I was pushing you so hard. And then what it does is, as they're walking around practice, they're kind of telling these, new guys, like, trust me, it'll be worth it. Trust me, it'll be worth it. So it's good to see. It's good to see. I'm really excited about tomorrow. Give those guys an opportunity, to kind of sign off that final piece of chapter from a workout standpoint. Pro Day is kind of like the true end of their college football career. The draft and the free agency is the entry into the NFL. So I'm gonna be very excited for those guys. They've worked really hard. They've done a lot for this program. They've done a lot for Marshall. They've done a lot for this community. So tomorrow is a good day for them.